We're going to explore what's going on and what is the meaning, if you would, share with us, of magical thinking.
You know, I love what you said. I love that you clarified it. Magic versus logic. It really is that simple. You know, the term magical thinking is something that you may have heard, you may not have heard, and it boils down to, are you being logical or are you, being in some fantasy? And there's magic that can be helpful, but what we're talking about here is when it gets a little bit out of hand.
Thank you, Susan. And so my question is this kind of thinking, it's unlikely, I would guess, to produce desirable results?
Yeah, people who are considered to be very lucky usually say, yeah, they're very lucky. They're the overnight success that took 25 years to get them there, or they're lucky and they've been working at it day after day after day, and finally, they got some luck. And so people who have more of this, well, it's all going to work out, or, build it and they will come, more tears have been shed over build it and they will come than I think anything else. Because the question is not whether they will come. The question is how many people will come and how much cash will they bring to you and how quickly. So, yeah, you might get, if you're a kid and you're putting on a show in the backyard, there's no harm done if only your grandparents and your parents are there. But if you're building something and you're, raising money or putting your own money into it, it's important for you to be sure how many people will come and how quickly and that they'll pay for the privilege. So that's the difference between logical thinking and just using magical thinking.
Thank you. Boy, imagine that. Just the facts. I need to pay attention to that more often myself.
Yeah, to add it to the mix. You have to also have facts.
Thank you, Susan. Mm-hmm. And now would you tell us the opposite of magical thinking so we really can understand?
Sure. And Fred, if you'd put up the whole brain map, that would be great, because then everybody can look and see that there's the logical, analytical component, which is blue, and that's what we're talking about, logic. Then there's magical thinking, the upper right, which is yellow, is impetuous, breaks rules, likes surprises, is curious, and plays. There's nothing wrong with being in the yellow. The question is that all you are doing? Are you living there? That, thank you, Fred. So if they're living there, you're building a house of cards on quicksand. Now, if you build a house of cards on quicksand, you better have a really good boat standing by. So that's the real question. Do you have the boat standing by? Are you ready? Are you prepared, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Well put. What an example. About that foundation.
And life preservers. You better have life preservers in said boat, and oars, or a really good engine. Yeah.
Oh my. Well, okay, let's explore this. What would you consider the number one tool that you teach your clients so that they can become conscious, and present in each moment?
Well, I believe that of all the thousands and thousands of people I've worked with, the common denominator of what causes people to get stuck in magical thinking is negative emotions, fear, anger, and sadness. So they're scared, and they're frozen in fear, and they can't operate logically. They're angry, they're enraged, they see red, they can't think straight. They can't think straight. That's magical thinking too. Or, they're so grief-stricken that they just can't get up and take the necessary action. So, of course, you guys know that, to me, the most successful skill that we've ever heard about, you and me, both of us, Gigi, is self-empathy, which is part of nonviolent communication. And as Gigi so sweetly reminded me, I'm the one who campaigned to have that included because Marshall never put any emphasis on it. And to me, I don't want to walk around in a giraffe community. I don't have time to be calling people on the phone to help me feel better. And I sure can't have my phone ring with every friend I've ever had asking me to help them make, the day a better one. I'm all for, independence and self-actualization, and let me have the tools in my old toolbox. I don't want to have to call the neighbor and borrow a hammer every day. So like that.
Thank you, Susan. That was my most enjoyable and informative, and I mean, that was a gift for you to get into self-empathy, because if you don't have that going on, boy, that life energy force is just not flowing like we want it to be, so that we can be gifts to people as well.
And I'm sure, because I know you so well, that it's amazing to you as it is to me how rarely we have to use it these days. I mean, you know, things are annoying and they just, you know, evaporate, or we do something about it.
Exactly.
You know, we don't have to get stuck and do much self-empathy. But that's because we're talking now years later. So if this is new to you, put the time in, do the work now, and then in a few years, you won't have to do it anymore either, which is great.
I love that. Great formula for lesser suffering and more
Yes.
peaceful energy going out.
Exactly, yes.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. It's my favorite chapter in Marshall's book. And here's the girl. Well, okay, now let's explore this that you've come up with, and that is tell us about the 4 questions of inquiry and where do they fit into the magical thinking?
And boy, did I have an experience this Saturday that was really a surprise for me. So you guys know that the 4 questions of inquiry come from the work of Byron Katie. And I went to see Byron Katie at Center of the Heart on Saturday with a number of my clients and former clients. And I've used this for years and years and years. And it was really interesting to me to see that Byron Katie's purpose is really very much linked to a 12-step program, which isn't applicable for the work that I do because I don't work much with addicts. I prefer to let other people do that, and I work with the spouse, you know, or the parents. And what I do is a very, very different kind of work. So it was interesting to see how much she was dealing with people who are in deep, deep pain, and that's really what she's looking for. She's really not looking for you and me unless you happen to still be in a lot of pain. My whole purpose is if I talk to somebody who's in pain, I immediately recommend that they take the saliva and the urine test for adrenals, for neurotransmitters, for hormones. I'm not interested in somebody living their life with self-empathy and being miserable in the morning and self-empathy and feeling better, and then that's hell to me. I'm also not interested in promoting somebody who is so, you know, miserable that they are constantly doing the 4 questions of inquiry. So I had this awareness that I had really taken her thing in a very different direction from her, just as I took Marshall's work in a very different direction from Marshall. It was interesting.
Absolutely.
And the experience I had, because if you guys are wondering, like, what happened that really, you know, just stunned me. And so this woman was deeply troubled about her son's skin condition. And this was like an hour of listening to Byron Katie work on getting this woman from judging herself and mostly judging her son to being able to reframe it to, you know, if somebody has a really difficult skin condition, this is the way they behave. Now, Byron Katie only spent 1 minute or less saying, you know, we live in an internet age now, and you can go online and you can find a lot of solutions. And I was surprised, but that's because she assessed, and I could see that it was true, that this woman was deeply troubled, deeply anxious, lots and lots of tears for almost the whole time, which I think was really about an hour. Now, I happened to get up and go to the bathroom at the end of that, and I had a great desire to speak to that woman. I was really curious about something. So as I come out of the restroom, there she is, and I said, you know, I was so grateful that you had gone up on stage and done this, and you may find this interesting, but I have a client who just solved this problem for her son. And I told her what the solution was, and she had no interest. So this woman had spent an hour or so, maybe a little bit less, talking about how she was suffering watching her son do all these things about his skin condition. I actually have a client who either cured the same condition or a similar one based on information I gave the client, because I happen to know the solution, though I gave it to my client. And I was going to give this woman contact information. I was going to tell her what I knew. I was going to, and whatever she wanted. She had no interest. So that's the proof that what Byron Katie is doing is dealing with someone living on an emotional roller coaster. That's what those 4 questions are for. And that's what she uses them for. But with me, if you're my client or a former client, you've had a session with me, you know I don't use them that way. I use them so you can find out what's true. Period. And wake up that upper left blue part of the brain and stop being in magical thinking. So my application of Byron Katie's 4 questions of inquiry is totally different from hers. Just as my application of self-empathy was totally different than Marshall's. And maybe someone will come along one day and apply my work in a totally different way from the way I saw it. You know, which is, be my guest.
It's a possibility.
Yeah.
Oh, but for
Amazing,
now, let's stick with your skills.
Okay,
I want to
okay.
explore some more.
Thank you, honey.
But there you go. You know, sometimes it reminds me the stories in the whirlwind of the pain, and they're just not quite ready, perhaps. But for
Well,
those,
if your brain chemistry is in imbalance, it's really tough to do anything but magical thinking. And I don't mean magical in a good way. I mean torturous,
yes.
emoting.
Yes, so let's get logical and get some results.
Yeah.
Very inspiring, as usual. Okay, well, let's explore this. I know that one of your students, Beth Simon, I believe, has said that your Heartspace skills allow anyone to stop recycling negative emotions once and for all. And so how about sharing with everyone how you teach those skills?
And it's really interesting. She's putting a website together for Bernard's work, her partner Jeff's work, who I told you about. Jeff Wilson does this amazing energetic work where he reconnects you to your higher self in a really incredible way, and he does it over the phone. And then my work. So she's going to have the 3 of us on this website. We were talking about it because when I did those workshops for her group in Ohio, she was just amazed that her group was telling all these stories. And they'd been telling all these stories for, like, I think a year or more. And I just went, okay, okay, let's just cut through all that. What proof do you have that any of that's true? And one of the women in her group, this fabulous woman named Kathy, took me up on the offer for a free session. She called me like the next week. We did a 1-hour session, 1 hour. And I edited her resume. I edited an email that she was sending as a cover letter and her cover letter, and she got a job in 4 days. And so Beth said, I don't even understand how you could have done it. And I said, basically, it's like Michelangelo and a statue of David. He took away everything that wasn't David. That was the line, right? So, I took away everything from Kathy's, mentality, thinking, etc., that wasn't Kathy. I got rid of all the nonsense that wasn't working, and what we were left with is Kathy's a wonderful person. She wanted a job. Good, she got a job.
Oh, I love that. It just kind of reminds me of clearing things, like taking away all the cobwebs.
Yeah, exactly. And she got the job working at the company she wanted to work at, not just some company, but she got the job she wanted. She got it within a few days, and she loves it. I mean, she's thrilled.
So she got it.
Yeah, really, really fast. And some people can. If they have enough whole brain function and they have enough whole brain chemistry, they really can get it, and they can turn their lives around fast. The rest of us, it takes a little longer. Okay, so what?
Okay.
It does.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I love that.
It didn't take me an hour to figure this out, believe me.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, my. Yeah, it's a process, of course. Now, exploring this, let's say, how can people who have, let's say, default setting of magical thinking learn to actually resolve complicated situations?
You know, you have to really want to have a solution, to be willing, first of all, to work with me, because I can be a tough cookie. You tell me you want a solution, I'm there for a solution. I'm not there to chat, and I'm not there to kid around, except, from time to time. We got work to do. We got a solution that we've got to create. So the more serious you are about solving whatever it is, the more intent you are, the more willing you are to make changes. Of course, true for any of us. I realized on Saturday that I had been sitting in workshops, seminars, and intensives for 37 years. 37 years. And paying for them, by the way, paying for all of those. Ay, ay, ay. So if you're really serious, now I've got all these tools and skills. It takes clients about 12 sessions to turn a particular area of their life around. 12 hours, not 37 years. Better math,
Oh my, that's fascinating. And to be able to be of service for people with all of the knowledge that you've spent so much time, so appreciated. And you're more than welcome. Well, now I know, I've heard you say it's not that complicated. And I know that can happen when most people really believe that it is complicated. And so please share with us, what do we need to learn?
So, Fred, if you'd put the map up again, just briefly, and then I love that little version. If you could leave that little version up in the corner, that would be fantastic. So just take a quick look, and if you're very big on your right brain and magical thinking and emotions, which is, yellow and red, then obviously what you need to develop is blue and green. Thank you, Fred. And then if you understand what I mean by the blue and green, I mean you've got to start to look at the logical analysis of the facts and the figures and the dollars and the numbers. That's the blue quadrant. And if you aren't reaching your goals, if you get close or you almost get there or you get sort of there and then you lose interest or any of those different causes, or, I hope not, but if you have an addiction, then that's always a problem of the lower left brain, the green quadrant. Not enough lower left brain activity, not enough planning, organizing, safekeeping, safety thinking, all of that. You don't have that natural inclination to put a ladder up towards it. And if you want to get to the second story, stick a ladder up and make sure someone strong is holding the ladder. Don't just, try to fly.
There you go. Thank you, Susan. I can't be Tinkerbell anymore.
You're Tinkerbell.
Oh my.
Wait, we have to clap. So
There you go.
Tinkerbell comes back to life, right?
Okay, exploring this magical thinking, is there negative and is there positive?
I'm still thinking about it. I went to the Broadway first week of Peter Pan. So my mother took me and we saw Mary Martin in Peter Pan in like 1953.
Oh my.
I was 4 years old. And I'm thinking, and there was a photograph in the Herald Tribune in New York, and there's a picture, you can see my mother. And we're doing something. At some point they have us do something with our hands. And at that moment they took the picture and you can see my mother. It's very cute.
Oh.
It's very, very cute.
Okay, we're going to have to share that.
But yes,
I can't wait.
Peter Pan and Tinkerbell.
Fascinating.
So you have to ask me the question again, because I was
yeah.
gone.
Oh my. Okay, so we'll explore this again. The negative magical thinking and positive magical thinking.
boy.
What's the big difference there?
Boy, that is, that's all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
If you know who Abraham is and Esther Hicks, and you've seen The Secret, and you understand positive magical thinking, that's all magical thinking, but in a very wonderful context of bringing yourself into what Abraham and Esther Hicks called positive expectation and belief, which is very high on the emotional guidance scale. If you don't have the emotional guidance scale, either ask me to send it to you or go online and find it, because it's 22 levels of emotion, going all the way down to, the depths of despair and all the way up to, just joy, unconditional joy. And positive expectation and belief is where you need to live. It's number 4. If you can live there, then you're able to create things. You're able to manifest things. Otherwise, if you're in the negative magical thinking, grief, despair, rage, all that stuff, life, of course, is exploding around you. You're in the middle of an earthquake. I mean, you really are. You're in the middle of an earthquake and the tsunami's coming. So you've got to get to high ground. And what I mean by that is learn how to bring yourself to peace. If you need some, organic supplements to change your biochemistry, please do that. It's safe, it's easy. I've got tons of referrals and lots of clients who are really thrilled by that.
A lot of information there for people to consider. Thank you, Susan.
Yes.
And so now let's explore what is the biggest danger of forgetting to look at the facts and consider them. Uh-oh. Reality, whoa.
Well, death is certainly one of the biggest dangers. If you don't take care of your health, lower left brain, death. Upper left brain, if you don't take care of that, money and all that, bankruptcy. Lower right, if you don't take care of what's real there, your partner may be, married to somebody else. I just read as I was having my hair done at your wonderful, wonderful Salon Lucia today, I read that Reese Witherspoon's father never divorced Reese's mother, and there's a court case over conservatorship because it seems that her father married a second woman.
Oh my.
Goodness gracious. So now that, of course, may be an example of illness, in which case it's tragic. However, we know that there are a lot of people who have done this and there's no illness, there's no mental illness, there's no illness of any kind. They just were doing what they wanted to do when they wanted to do it, right? So that's the kind of thing. Cheating is what I'm talking about here. And, then there are parents who disappear. You hear celebrity stories, which is mostly what we hear about. You hear celebrity stories, forget about absentee dads, forget about single moms who really there wasn't a man in the picture. We find that there are mothers who disappeared. So that's what happens when somebody has negative magical thinking with any of those 4 quadrants of the brain. Those are the disasters that hit us.
I'm sure we can all relate. We've all
yeah.
experienced or observed somebody going through that, absolutely. Well, thank you for that information. My goodness, we have a lot more to go, but I can see now that we're ready to go into a clip, and this is going to be with our dear friend, Reverend Bernard Goodman, and evidently Fred's telling me that it's about Gigi, so here I am. I'm going to have a reality check right with you. Please enjoy. We'll be back for more.
Gigi is creating all these movie scripts and has no idea where it's coming from or what she's writing until after she looks at it. She's going to get her mind blown because Gigi is going to cease to be Gigi. And she's going to become, and we said this years ago, Gigi. And Gigi is a whole different energy system. We are going to revolutionize her brain and her thinking and her ability. And she's going to become someone she's never been before in this lifetime. And she will actually grow out of the crap she has had to live with, as many of you are going to be doing. And it's very interesting, without giving anything away, the similarities of many of your lives. So you are not the only ones who work. And there are millions like you out there. And Bernard here keeps hearing more and more of you out there who have gone through and are going through the exact same crap. Well, this crap is going to end because the energy on this planet will disallow it to exist here, as it will for disease and crime and war and all that stuff. You know, in the movies, War of the Worlds, the one thing that ended the ETs, if you will, was this little microscopic, invisible something. Thank you. So when the energy of this planet creates the inability for all these negative things, all these other things to exist here, they will just dissipate and disappear. There will be no place for them to live here. They will not be able to live. It'll be like the opposite of a virus. Or if you want to call it a virus of light, that will literally destroy everything that is not of light. Now this has already been done, and it will continue to grow even more. And the results of that has already been showing up throughout this year, and even more next year and on and on. Because what Spirit is doing is actually dropping these invisible seeds of light into the atmosphere that everybody breathes and lives. And the results are showing up all over the world, surprisingly at times. Totally contrary to the control of those who think they're in control, which is also something that's going to dissipate. Well, it's actually already begun. And so what is going on in this room today is a masterful, major change in evolution for those who are in this room. This even includes Bernard, even though he hasn't a clue. We are not kidding about this, people. You people are no longer who you were born as. You have transforced, isn't a word, you have transforced beyond what you were born as. So what's going to be happening over a period of time, sometimes gradual, sometimes not, you will find yourselves literally becoming something else, different. And just as you are different now from when you were 10 years young, you will become different from where you are now, which is evolution. And since everything is relative to evolution, you are all relative to evolution. And when Susan was given the auspice to create the TV show Evolution Revolution, she was not given the full picture of what that really is going to be. That the magic and alchemy that comes from that show is literally changing people's lives everywhere. That the people you people are going to be coming in contact with, which we can't tell you who they are, but Bernard knows, will blow your minds and show you how incredible you each are, and how much you're needed, and how you're all part of a plan, that you weren't dropped here by accident. And whatever it took for you to create what you have created, like Sharon and her child, like Candace and the Comanche, on and on. Whatever it has taken for you to create what you have created is going to take you to the next level of you. What we have been calling the second you, the second coming, the second earth. And you're going to find yourself actually walking away from the way you were and walking into that which you came to be. And it's going to be miraculous, magical, and unexplainable. You remember the 4 words, the last one, ending in undeniable? Right? You all know that? This is going to be so far beyond those words, we have to now use the word mind-boggling, and after mind-boggling, which has already begun, is mind-blowing. Because there are no words in the English language or any language on earth that can explain that which is beyond, beyond, beyond. Other perhaps than the word beyond. And all of you are going to be moved beyond, beyond. And we have to tell you that this is already happening in people's lives, including Bernard, and there's no way to explain this. Only God could do this. And we know there are at least a number of people in this room who are absolutely recipient of what we just said. Yes? That your lives are beyond anything? Totally beyond even explanation? Even beyond undeniability? Because you passed that God knows when. You are moving into the future space of planet peace. We are literally bringing you in to that new energy, which is so incredibly powerful. It will cause the earth to change forever. And we're not messing around with this. You people don't know who you are, but we do.
I really thank Bernard for those thoughts, for that energy, inspiration, and it's like a wake up. And all I can say is just, it helps me to remember to be conscious of permanent, inescapable prosperity. And thank you, Bernard, our dear friend. Now, thanks for introducing me to him.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm so thrilled.
Okay, now we're going to question you some more here, Susan. We've got you trapped. I wonder now if you'd be willing to tell us, why do you refer to your trainings as a series of tools and skills?
So let's say that someone is unhappy. They call me, she calls me, and she's unhappy, right? So she's able to pick up the phone and dial. She's able to send an email. She's able to pay for goods and services. So she's not, at a place in her life where everything's a disaster. Some things are working in her life, this apocryphal person, this imaginary person. But she's missing some tools and or skills. So what's the difference? Well, she speaks English. I do most of my coaching in English. I speak a few other little bits of languages, but still it's in English. So she speaks a language, but she may not be able to motivate people. I spoke to a woman last night, and I'm working with her son, and she makes harsh judgments, very harsh judgments. So I kind of calmed her down, and I motivated her in a very gentle way to start to think about other ways she could express it. And once she understood that there were other ways to express it, a tool called the Heartspace system, then it was about beginning to teach her some skills. The skills are the actual phrasing. So I helped her to create some phrasing that she could use when she speaks to her son to calm him down, bring him back to peace, instead of this old habit that's been going on for many, many years of judging and criticizing him. Now, I had just had a session with him. It was great timing. I had the session with him first and then with his mom. And of course, everything's confidential. But I was able to hear that there were some challenges in his life. So as she described what her son had said to her, I already had a little warning. So I was very much, right in the groove. I could make up some phrasing that I knew was going to help her with the specific issues that she knew her son had. And I was able to move her from this harsh, judgmental, place into compassion and understanding and really the sweetness and the love that she feels for him. And she was, stunned. I mean, she said, boy, if that could happen. No, I said, that is what's happening. And a little bit like, well, if you could do that, well, I said, that is what we're doing. That's what we're doing here. That's what the skills of the Heartspace communication thing give her. That's what that model is all about. It's about peace. And she said, well, I like the fact that you're teaching my son how to run his business. Well, he's a young guy. I knew nothing about running a company when I was that age. That was the first year that I had my own business, his age. I said, we can't have him learn the way I learned. 20 years isn't enough, 30 years isn't enough. It took me 40 years to learn what I know now being in business. I've been in business for 40 years, as of like today. So she said, well, if you could do that, that would be another miracle. That's magical thinking, right? A miracle, a miracle, a miracle. I said, no, these are exactly the results that clients get from learning and mastering these tools and skills. This is how it goes.
Oh, beautiful. You opened up a lot of doors there, didn't you?
Right. Absolutely.
Oh, gosh, I love that. It sounds a little magical to me, but it worked.
Never eliminate the magic. Just don't, only have the magic.
There you go. Thank you, Susan. Now, my question and concern is, what can happen in a relationship where one or both partners, let's say, employ magical thinking?
If one does and the other one is really grounded, it's very challenging for that grounded partner to stick around. It really is. Because, you'll have a partner who's a practical person who goes to work and earns money and wants to see the money spent in an appropriate way so that the family benefits. And then one version of magical thinking is gambling.
Oh, yes.
So another version of magical thinking is not working. Another version of magical thinking is starting a company that you don't have the skills to start, or starting a company when you don't have the skills and you don't have the partners in place to start. And it's just amazing because I watch and, listen in most cases. Information that I'm offering kind of slide over a lot of people's heads because they're living in this magical thinking, and I'll go back to it. And Bernard just asked me today, well, how did somebody that we both know start to get so interested in what Bernard says? And I said, because of my training. Because that's someone who doesn't have any spirituality really, any real understanding of spirituality, doesn't have any understanding of quantum physics, which is not magical, it's real. It looks magical, it sounds magical, and it's some of the laws of our planet, and you have to understand them from a scientific perspective, so you're not just, wishful thinking yourself to the poorhouse. And I explained, little by little, day by day, year by year, whenever I had a conversation with that person, I would always include, gosh, I wonder what Bernard would say about that. Because I learned myself in the 80s and the 90s again, and again in, like 2000 and something, just because I'm a hard worker, that's not enough. Just because I'm focusing on my goals, that's not enough. Just because I know how to motivate people and be sweet with people, that's not enough. And so I had to learn how to not use magical thinking, but to bring in spirit. And really bring in asking for what I want, focusing on what I want, and learning how to manifest. Which sounds like magical thinking, but the way I teach it, it's based on quantum physics.
Beautiful. Delightful. The whole package.
Yeah, and I know that's what you love too. That's what we find so exciting.
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought up quantum physics. Another show.
Yes.
Again, I hope. Okay, well, thank you for that information, Susan. This is getting very clear for me, once again, reminders.
Well, it better be. You've been listening to me for years. You're one of my closest friends. If it's not clear for you, I am really in trouble.
Exactly. Yeah, I've taken lots of notes to self. Sometimes I get a little distracted. Oh my. Okay, now I'm blushing. We'll move on. Well, okay, so do you find that many of your clients have been diagnosed with ADD, live in a world of that magical thinking?
Yeah, and that's a tragedy because you don't have to. You really don't have to. And that is why understanding the logical analysis, the facts, the figures, the data about ADD and ADHD can save your life. If you don't understand the challenge of focusing for those of us who have had ADD or ADHD in our lives, if you don't understand that you can flip it from not enough focus to where I live now, which is hyper-focus, which is a whole different world, which is why I have results. And if you don't know how to do it, well, first of all, we live in the information age. I just saw an amazing television program on ADD and ADHD on PBS. It was incredible. And, you know, even though I've known about this since I was a kid, and I've certainly, you know, suffered with it, and Alexis had it, you know, so I learned things from the show. The thing that I wasn't excited about is how they want to medicate everybody, and I found that, for me at least, taking organic supplements was perfect. That's all I needed. So, you know, the more information we have, we're able to make decisions that resonate with us. We're able to look harder, get another expert's opinion, another one, until we find a solution that really works, rather than one of my clients who's been suffering and struggling for like 48 years. And until he spoke to me, he had worked with a therapist. He had a diagnosis, and it was just like Marshall says. You know, a diagnosis doesn't solve a problem. You know, and for many people, having a diagnosis is quite disturbing. It's very upsetting. It puts them back into that negative emotional state. Makes them less likely to get a solution, unless they're in a frenzy, you know, panicking. So this guy, he went to his psychiatrist, he took the test, he did everything he needed to do, he got a diagnosis, and then did nothing about it until, luckily, one of my friends and clients met him and said, call Susan because she'll know who to put you in touch with. And he's beginning to have a very different life.
Oh, beautiful. So that's so encouraging for anybody, regardless of their circumstances or diagnosis, what have you. You don't have to own that and suffer.
Yeah, and with ADD, it's like, you know, the sessions are 1 hour. And I've now had a conversation with this lovely man. He was a lovely man. I'm actually working with 2 men who have ADD right now. And at the very end of the session, this guy's able to now be focused on this issue at hand, which is the key issue at hand. And every time I say to him, now that's great. Now, when we speak next, we have to start here. We can't spend an hour getting to this topic. We have to begin here. And so far, he's not been able to.
Oh, my.
And it's not from lack of trying on his part, and it's not from lack of skills on mine. His brain simply doesn't have the ability to follow through in a consistent, logical way yet. So we're working on it, and I'm really hopeful that he will start taking supplements soon.
Beautiful. And then develop those neural
That's right.
pathways as well, right?
Exactly.
Perfect. Okay. Oh my, this is so exciting. Well, thank you once again, Susan.
Yes.
And so how about this magical thinking and our health? How dangerous can that be? And I know that one of your friends, let's say, I'm doing the right thing to get well because I'm still here. What did she mean by that?
Yeah, it's really, really concerned me, because it's not good enough to assume that because one is still alive, one is making all the right choices. I don't care if it's health or money or relationship or finding a place to live. Just because you have a place to live doesn't mean you've done the very best you could have done if you had had more skills. You did the best you could with the skills you had. But wouldn't it have been nice for many people to have had more skills, more training, more support? They would have made better decisions in this real estate meltdown. And wouldn't it have been wonderful if we had had more tools and skills and support? We could have had a better outcome in this financial meltdown. And wouldn't it be great if we had more tools and skills and support so that we had greater health sooner, or we had greater health that lasted longer? And wouldn't it be terrific? I have a friend and a client who said to me, that relationship, which I helped her extricate herself from, she said that was the only relationship I had where somebody actually broke my heart. I said, huh? What? Really? I said, I guess I got all of yours. Because I mean, I've never heard of a beautiful woman, and she is a beautiful woman, who hasn't had her heart broken, if you want to use that term, hasn't been through excruciating pain in numerous intimate relationships. So that was fascinating. I said, well, you had a lot of skills in order to avoid that.
Yes,
a lot of
there you
skills.
go. Thank you, Susan.
Yes.
Boy, let's not talk about heartbreaks.
That's another show, Gigi.
Yeah, there you go. Oh
Is your heart really broken? What
No, no,
evidence
no,
do
no,
you
no.
have?
Oh my. Well, okay, so let's explore this. Is there a connection between bankruptcy and magical thinking?
Yes, a direct one. From point A to point B, yeah. If you have, you're not being logical, you're not analyzing your finances, or you're not analyzing your income, or you have this build it and they will come belief, those are all the kinds of things that if you're not really able to pull yourself out of a spin at the last moment, that's how people end up in bankruptcy. And remember, there are a lot of pilots whose planes go into a spin and they pull themselves out of a spin because they have enough skills and training, and when they were learning, they had support. Whereas what it looks like, the tragedy of John F. Kennedy Jr., who was a new pilot and couldn't tell the difference from what they believe between the night sky and the night sea, and then crashed. And so you can pull yourself out of a spin if you have enough tools, skills, and support. That's what I'm encouraging.
Oh, and that's what I'm so grateful for, that you do that. You're so devoted to that. My goodness.
You will learn.
Yes. Oh my. Well, okay, I've got a lot of ground to cover here.
Okay, we have a few minutes. Okay.
Yeah, I need to focus. How does a partner motivate and inspire the other partner to be the kind of magical thinking that keeps creating problems with money and with health?
That's where Marshall Rosenberg's empathy is worth, $1 million or more. That you have to realize, whatever the problem is, you have to realize that your needs and your partner's needs are not identical. You may have a huge need for your partner to get well, and your partner may not have the same need. You may have a very strong belief in either alternative cures or traditional cures. Your partner may not. So you've got to keep motivating them, motivating them, motivating them, motivating them. And, every time my best friend speaks to Howard and sees Howard, it's the result of that. When she spoke to Jeff, and she will speak to Jeff again and had that work done, it was a result of that. So while it's tempting to be frustrated, annoyed, angry, sad, when somebody doesn't do what you believe is important and what you believe is best, we're not slaves. We have autonomy.
Thank you, Susan. Once again, that's very encouraging. Less pain, that's...
We have to stick with it, though.
Yes, consistency.
That's the dream.
That's a big one. I'm working on it all the time.
Yeah, you're very consistent. You're very consistent. Thank God.
Thank you. Yes. Well, okay, let's explore this. Many parents hear their young children and their teenagers speaking, and they really believe that the kids will grow out of it. Do they?
I have very little evidence in young adults, children and young adults and teenagers just growing out of things, Because I see too many of us who are, ancient, who haven't grown out of everything or haven't grown out of much. So I don't believe that's sufficient. Sometimes they're lucky and they go to school and they learn at school what they didn't learn from the parents. Sometimes they learn from the grandparents what they didn't learn from their parents. Or they learn from their boyfriends or their girlfriends or their friends. So humans are a pretty slow group of students as a result. You have an antelope, and that antelope has to be able to run the day it's born within, an hour, maybe less?
Yes.
Giraffes as well. And so we don't have those abilities as humans. We develop very slowly. Very slowly.
Oh, darn. A little challenging, but we can do it.
Well, you know, here I'm ready for another lifetime in terms of time span. I think if I had 2 of these, I could really learn what I came here to learn. Because I got a slow start in the learning life skills department. You know, I just had a lot of magical thinking for a long time.
And that's why we're focused on this show, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I know in just the couple of minutes we have left here, Reverend Bernard said that your job is to teach us how to have a balanced brain. And so how can you explain that to our viewers?
In a minute.
Yes.
Well, luckily I've been talking on Gigi's show for a long enough time, so you've heard most of it. So the bottom line is commitment. If you have a problem, you know, I've just started this new component called crisis coaching, you know, because I'm always solution oriented.
Yes.
So if somebody calls me with a problem, I'm always ready to solve that problem with you, whatever it is. And in order for you to solve that problem, because you've got to be able to do the things, I'm not, you know, I'm not Cyrano de Bergerac. I'm writing the scripts, but you've got to deliver it. I'm helping you write the emails, but you've got to follow it up with meetings. I'm helping you write the dating profiles, but you actually have to go on the dates. So how do we get you this whole brain? Because you have a problem, you're tired of the problem, you're not willing to live with it for another minute. You call me, you have your free session. I start to teach you the tools and skills that are missing, and you end up with as much of a balanced brain as you can in the shortest period of time. And then the problem just starts to turn around and transform and disappear.
Oh, beautiful. There we've got those results. Thank you, Susan.